Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Matt and I do like video games, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the upcoming Xbox game showcase. I'm going to give my predictions and I'm going to break it down into three parts. So let's go ahead and get right into it. And before we get into the video, I just want to say this video is focused mostly on first party, in fact, entirely on first party. Obviously, we're going to see third party things at this showcase. We're going to see indie titles. We're going to see big AAA titles. I would imagine we'll probably see the next Battlefield at the showcase because EA and Microsoft are very much partners ever since their whole, EA and Game Pass thing that they've done years ago at this point. So I would imagine we'll see that. I know people are talking about possibly, Final Fantasy VII Remake showing up at the showcase. Square Enix has been building a relationship with Microsoft over the past couple of years. So, who knows? We'll probably see some of that stuff at the showcase, but this video is focused entirely on first party stuff. And like I said, I'm going to break this down into three parts. The three parts being studios that are all good. I don't expect to see them at this showcase, outside of maybe one or two things here or there. And then the second part is going to be studios that I think could be there. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the things that I fully expect to be there. Now, I'm not going to go over every single studio that Microsoft now owns because that's a lot of studios. I'm kind of going over the highlights and the things that I actually think could be there, the things that, people are really talking about. So let's go ahead and get into this first part. And this is the studios that are all good. The studios that I don't think are going to be there, really. Compulsion Games just released South of Midnight. I don't think there's too much pressure on them to release another game in the next 12 months. So I don't think they're going to be there unless they want to do some DLC for South of Midnight, which, maybe not. We'll see. id Software. They just released Doom, literally just released Doom the Dark Ages not too long ago. Obviously, they're doing DLC. I mean, that's part of the premium edition. You're going to get the DLCs with that premium edition purchase for Doom the Dark Ages. So that's happening. But is it too early to announce that stuff? Maybe not. It might not be. Maybe we do see id Software there. But if they're there, then it's probably just for the Doom the Dark Ages DLC. I have Ninja Theory here as well, but this one was kind of interesting because they did just do Hellblade 2 last year. They're bringing it to PS5 this year. Maybe they show up because, they have Project Mara in development, and that's been, we've known about that for years, and I don't even think they've announced an actual name for Project Mara. It's still just Project Mara. But some weird experimental horror game. Maybe that's at the showcase. I don't know. We'll see. I have Machine Games down here as well. They just released Indiana Jones. There's going to be DLC. Are we going to see it at the showcase? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know yet. But again, not too much pressure for them to release a new game in the next 12 months. I also have Obsidian Entertainment right here. They just released Avowed. I loved Avowed. We're obviously going to be seeing a lot of Obsidian at this showcase because they have an entire part of the showcase dedicated to Outer Worlds 2. So like I said, we're going to be seeing a lot of Obsidian at the showcase, which is kind of insane because, like I said, they just released a AAA RPG. So shout out to Obsidian Entertainment. You could definitely say one of Xbox, if not Xbox's most consistent studio. So shout out to them. But that's all I have for the first part. And up next, I'm talking about studios that I think could be there. Now, first on this list, I've got Arcane. This one's kind of weird because I'm not entirely sure if I even believe that they'll be at this showcase, but I put them on this list because they are working on Marvel's Blade, and we don't know how far out that game is going to be, but I think it's a fair assumption that it's definitely not this year and almost certainly not next year, which would put the earliest release for this game sometime in 2027. And if I'm being honest, I think this is likely a next-gen release, like a next-gen launch game. So I think it makes sense to probably hold the next showing of this game off until you announce that next-gen console. But at the same time, as an Arcane fanatic, I'm kind of just running on fumes at this point. These past couple years after Redfall's release, if you're an Arcane fan, you are running on fumes at this point. So I'm personally just dying to see a new Arcane game. So while my hopes aren't exactly high for seeing, Marvel's Blade at this showcase, there is a little part of me that wanted to put them on this list in hopes that we do see it. Now up next is Blizzard Entertainment, and this one I think also could be a long shot, just like Arcane, I said. But we have heard that there are rumors of a third-person StarCraft. I put FPS here. I don't know what I'm thinking. A third-person StarCraft FPS. Imagine that. But a third-person StarCraft shooter that may or may not have been in the works since 2022. I know people were kind of saying it was like Far Cry, which, I hear that and I love it. I know a lot of people hear that and they're like, I don't know about that. But me personally, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, I'm very interested because I love Far Cry. Now, whether or not this whole rumor is true kind of remains to be seen. But I've also got a feeling that if this game is real and we do hear about it this year, it would probably make more sense to show this off at BlizzCon, because there is going to be a BlizzCon. And that's all about Blizzard and it's all about Blizzard fans. So, if Blizzard's working on a new StarCraft game, whether it's a shooter or, the original style of game, I think it makes a lot of sense to have it at BlizzCon. But I put it on this list because I didn't want to rule it out for this showcase. And then I have Double Fine here, and this one makes a lot of sense to me just based on the fact that they tend to make smaller games, at least compared to what we see nowadays from AAA games. They do make smaller games from that standpoint. And it has been about 4 years since we've seen Psychonauts 2. I think that was August of 2021. So close to 4 years since we saw that. And after that game's critical acclaim, I think the bar will be set pretty high for Double Fine, but maybe we'll finally get to see what they're working on at this year's showcase. Out of the ones I've said so far, this is the one I'm most confident that we'll see at this showcase. Out of Arcane, Blizzard, and Double Fine so far, this one is the one I'm most confident in. So we'll see. I'm excited to see what it is, and maybe this will be the push that I need to actually go and beat Psychonauts 2, because I've never beat Psychonauts 2, even though everyone says it's amazing. So who knows, maybe this could spur me to go ahead and do that. And the last one I have on this list is Playground Games, and I know what you're probably thinking is, how could this be a maybe for you? The reason I say I think it might be at this showcase and not definitely will be at this showcase is because they're working on two things right now. Most of their focus is entirely on the Fable RPG, and understandably so, because that is seemingly the game that is closer from Playground Games at the moment. But also they're working on Forza Horizon 6, or at least you would assume they're working on Forza Horizon 6. We don't really know that for sure. I think if Forza Horizon 6 it exists and is set to be released sometime soon, I think we will see Playground at this showcase. Now, the reason I don't think we'll see Fable at this showcase, and I could be entirely wrong here, is because it did get delayed out of this year. It was originally set for this year. It got delayed out of this year to 2026. I think I could see them doing a thing where they bring back Fable with a big showing at the Game Awards. And then I think you double up on that at next year's Xbox Dev Direct. But then again, what do I know? Fable could be here and Forza Horizon 6 could be here, and this could be entirely stupid on my part. But just the general gut feeling I have right now is, they might be there, but I'm kind of leaning more towards they won't be there. But again, we will see for sure later this week. And finally, we are on to the third part of this, which is the studios that I fully expect to see at this showcase. First up, we've got Activision. This one goes without saying. Kind of like Obsidian Entertainment goes without saying, because there is Outer Worlds 2 Direct. Activision releases a Call of Duty every year. That's just the way it is. And now that Microsoft owns Activision, ABK in general, you know, where are they going to show Call of Duty every year? They're going to show it at Microsoft's showcase. So, I mean, I think it goes without saying we'll see the new Call of Duty 2025 at this year's showcase. It is rumored to be Black Ops 7, which I'm not too mad about, honestly. And we don't know too much, although it has also been rumored that it's going to be more futuristic, at least in terms of its gameplay. I know I saw something online about there possibly being wall running in this Black Ops. Shout out to Black Ops 3, which did wall running as well. But still excited for it. It's Call of Duty. I play it every year, so looking forward to it. And I'm sure we will be seeing it at this showcase. Now up next, and you guys might think I'm crazy for this, but I got it right here in front of me. I got Halo Studios on the list. And maybe I am being delusional, and it won't take long for us to find out if that's the case, because we're going to see this showcase later this week. So it's going to come and go, and Halo's going to be there, or it's going to come and go, and Halo's going to be MIA again. We don't know, but I have hope it'll be there. And I think everyone is in agreement that they kind of failed. They kind of failed spectacularly to turn Halo Infinite into the 10-year plan that it was originally touted as. I know there's also been news, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's also been news that the direct sequel to Halo Infinite will actually be coming in the form of a new book in the series. Now, I could go off on a tangent on this. I'm not going to, but I could go off on a tangent on this because that to me is a problem that 343, now Halo Studios, has always had, was having key pivotal moments in the franchise take place off screen and in books. Again, I could go off on a tangent. I'm not going to. The reason I brought that up is because I want to hammer home the point that if the continuation of Halo Infinite will in fact be in a book, then I would imagine that would pump the brakes on a direct sequel in the video game format. And if that is the case, then I mean, I kind of leads me to believe that what we've been talking about this past year is more true than ever, and that is a Halo Combat Evolved remake. And at this point, this is what I'm really hoping for. And don't get me wrong, if we were to see a continuation of Halo Infinite's story, I'd be ecstatic also. I love Halo Infinite's story. I love what they did with Chief. I love how they introduced the pilot. I love the weapon. I love what they did with that story. So if we saw a sequel to that, I'd be ecstatic. But given everything that's gone on with Halo in the past 2 years, from 343's name change to Halo Studios, to the announcement of switching to UE5 for the future of Halo, to just a general turnover of leadership at Halo Studios, I think the logical step is to go back to the drawing board, go back to the beginning and reboot the series. And for me personally, it doesn't even need to be a one-to-one recreation of Halo CE. Obviously, it's ideal to honor the original material for sure, which is very important. And they found that out with Halo CE Remaster, the original remaster, because they took a lot of creative liberties with the art in that game, and it wasn't very well received. I know when I go back to play Halo CE on Master Chief Collection, I play it in its original format. I don't play it with the updated graphics. I don't like what they did with the art, and a lot of people feel that way. But at the same time, even after saying that, I don't think that they can be afraid to take a few creative liberties when it comes to a project like this. Again, if this is actually happening. I mean, we saw all the UE5 renders that they showed off when they announced they were moving to UE5. It was a lot of OG Master Chief and his Halo CE armor. It was a lot of that. So that just seems like a hint, guys, that this is obviously a thing that's happening. And if this is their plan, they definitely have a really big task ahead of them, because they have to thread the same needle that Halo Infinite had to thread. And Halo Infinite did it. That's something that a lot of people forget. Halo Infinite threaded that needle of catering to old fans while also catering to new players as well. The problem with Halo Infinite was the content pipeline, absolutely non-existent for like a half a year after the game's release. And that's just unacceptable for a AAA multiplayer game. Now, if they can nail the content pipeline, again, assuming that this is real and there is a multiplayer component to this, which come on, please make a multiplayer component to this, then I think that, you know, they could really be on the right track, getting Halo back on the right track, I should say. And who knows? I have it here on the list. I think it'll be at the showcase. I have really high hopes that it'll be at the showcase. If it's not, I'm going to be pretty upset, but we're going to find out later this week. Now, next up on this list, I have the Coalition with Gears of War E-Day. I want to see what this game looks like, guys. I mean, just like a lot of you, I want to see what this game looks like. It looks like they've made it a point to go back to the classic tone of Gears of War, given last year's trailer, which featured the Mad World song from the original Gears of War trailer 20 years ago. God damn, 20 years is insane. But that's besides the point. I like the vibe that it looks like they're going for, and I'm really interested in the fact that it's a prequel. Personally, I really enjoyed Gears 5. Not so much Gears 4. I did not like Gears 4. I don't like JD as a character. I really don't. But let's be real. The new Gears games aren't garnering the same amount of attention that the classic trilogy did. That's just a fact. Whether you like the new Gears games or not, it is a fact that the classic Gears games garner a lot more attention than these new ones. And with the Coalition obviously playing into nostalgia with this game, like we mentioned earlier with the Mad World trailer, as well as going back to Marcus and Dom as the main characters in the story, I think this is kind of the perfect chance for Microsoft to get Gears of War back on the map among longtime fans of the series. The big question is, will we actually be seeing a release date for this game? There were obviously some rumors late last year and very early this year that it was possibly targeting a release of late 2025, but it has since been reported that it's going to be very unlikely, so we're most likely looking at a 2026 release. That being said, I've got my fingers crossed that we'll still see a full release date for Gears of War E-Day at this showcase. And up next, I've got Undead Labs on this list. I think this one's a pretty safe bet. I think most people would agree. State of Decay 3 was shown off at last year's showcase with a sprinkling of gameplay mixed in, and with another year in the books, I think it's almost certainly given that we'll be seeing something from State of Decay 3 at this showcase. Perhaps even a release date? One can only hope. So, got my fingers crossed, but I am expecting to see this game at the showcase. And then, of course, I gotta talk about In Exile Entertainment. I think this one is definitely a given, guys. We saw Clockwork Revolution a few years ago. I think it was 2023's Xbox showcase that we saw that. And personally, I loved what we saw from it. I love first-person RPGs, and the steampunk aesthetic just looks really stylish, honestly. And mixing both of those things with In Exile's long history of RPG storytelling, the choice and consequence. I mean, let's be real, we are talking about the original creators of the Fallout series here. So they've got a very long history of great RPG storytelling, and I couldn't be more excited about this game. I mean, when they showed it off, like that immediately shot to like near the top of my list of most anticipated things from Xbox. And it's still there to this day. So I'm really hyped for it. I think the only question that remains, obviously, is when will this game release? There were rumors that it could release in 2025. Those rumors are pretty old at this point, but we haven't heard much since, so maybe it releases this year, but if I had to place a bet, I'd say it's probably next year for this game. And then the last thing I have on this list is Bethesda Game Studios. Now, this one I think goes without saying because there is a Starfield DLC planned for later this year. And I think it's a safe bet that we'll probably be getting a look at that. I believe they call it the Starborn DLC. So we'll probably be seeing that at this showcase. But I also added BGS because I'm hoping, we'll call it hoping and coping, that we get any sort of mention of Elder Scrolls 6. I mean, it just seems like such a perfect time to drop some news for us. The Oblivion remaster has been absolutely crushing it since its not so surprise release back in late April. And it goes without saying that the Elder Scrolls fan base is absolutely rabid for new Elder Scrolls stuff. And listen, I fully expect that Elder Scrolls 6 is years away at this point. But man, how cool would it be if we were riding this high from all the Oblivion remaster stuff, and then they drop a new tease or even a full trailer for Elder Scrolls 6. Again, guys, I know this is unlikely. This is, again, hoping and coping, but man, it would be amazing if they did that. Not to mention, we didn't even talk about Fallout. And if you guys remember, a couple years ago on that FTC leaked document about projects taking place within Microsoft and Bethesda, I think it was specifically Bethesda at that point, uh, Fallout 3 Remaster was on that list. Now, do I expect we'll see Fallout 3 Remaster at this showcase? Probably not. I think the earliest we'll see that is, and again, the earliest we'll see that, not play it, the earliest we'll see that I think is probably next year. But again, you know, it's something that's there, it's something that's lurking in the shadows, and maybe we do see it, but who knows? Either way, I think for sure we're going to be seeing Bethesda Game Studios at this showcase with the Starfield DLC for sure. But guys, that is what I've got for my predictions for this Xbox Games Showcase. Again, obviously we're seeing Outer Worlds 2. Obviously we're going to see some third-party stuff, you know, Battlefield, maybe Final Fantasy, some surprise stuff that we don't know exists yet, some things dropping into Game Pass, indies, AAAs, all that fun stuff. I think the Xbox Showcase is going to be very, very big. I think it's kind of a given that it's going to be a big showcase every year. Now that they have all these third-party deals, now that they have all these first-party studios, it's kind of a given that they're probably going to have a banger of a show every year. But with that being said, leave in the comments below. Let me know what your expectations, what your predictions are for this showcase. Like I said, leave that in the comments below. Leave a like if you like the video. And if you're enjoying this kind of content and you want to stay up to date with it going forward over here on the channel, the best way to do that is consider subscribing, consider ringing that notification bell, because that helps you stay up to date with everything that happens over here on the channel. And it helps promote me. The algorithm helps push the videos out to way more people. And I always, always, always appreciate that. With that being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.